We all know that every NHL season has some wacky surprises in store, and this next year will be no different. So today I want to go through 7 different of my bold predictions for next year, things that I could see absolutely happening that'll shock the hockey world. So make sure you watch till the end as we go through all the bold predictions today, and of course hit that subscribe button for more hockey content just like this all throughout the offseason. Now for today's video, I try to go for as bold as possible, but we're going to start with the least bold and work our way to number 7, which is the most bold take of them all. Starting this out though with my first bold prediction of the bunch here, I'm going to start here with the Montreal Canadiens, and to me I think it could go in a lot of different directions. I think next year's team is going to be a fascinating one with all the youthful players, all the potential there. They could be a team that surprises. But my first bold prediction is actually on the player side here. First things first, I think Cole Caufield will score 50 goals this next year. Now every season, and especially recently, there's about 5 to 10 players who are around that 50 goal range. Some get it, some are just behind, but I think Cole Caufield is in for a monster season this next year. He's starting to enter the prime of his career at this point, 23 years old and turning 24 this next January, but he's somebody that has had a really interesting last couple of years, not being healthy in 2023, then this year having a full healthy season, but the shooting wasn't really where he wanted it to be. And there were also times this last year where he did look injured but was still playing, and I think this next season we'll finally see Caufield not just fully healthy but firing on all cylinders. But last year we saw some key improvement in a lot of areas defensively. I thought he was much better and more consistent against physical pressure, and you also saw the assists take a big bump. He got 10 assists back in 2023, but last year 37, and I'm not sure if he'll be as assist focused as he was last season, but I think those overall improvements were made last year, and this year we're going to start to see the goal scoring really get back to a great level. I also just think we're going to see a great year out of the Habs top forwards in Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and specifically Kirby Dach, who I think will be healthy and fully ready to go, which I think completely changes that top 6, and especially for the power play makes it a lot better. And you also consider Lane Hudson as well being a part of that power play, players like Matheson and Goulet taking next steps as well, and I think the Montreal Canadiens offensively are going to be pretty majorly improved, but Caufield will be a big reason why. At the very least, I could easily see Caufield hitting 40, maybe 45 goals. 50, I know, is a pretty big hot take, but again, I think he's due for a breakout year. I think this is the season that he finally gets going to that elite level that we all know he can go to. Now we keep going here and on to the second bold prediction of the day for me. Next up, we go on to the Chicago Blackhawks, and I mentioned this in my team ranking for next year, but I honestly think they're pretty underrated heading into next season. For my second bold prediction, I think they'll be right on the fringe of the playoffs, around 80-85 points. And I know there'll be a lot of people surprised to see that, but I think there'll be some major key reasons why Chicago improves. Yes, they were absolutely dreadful once again last season, getting 52 points in 82 games, but I see this next year being pretty different. Of course, naturally, I think a big part of this is the progression in Connor Bedard's game, winning the Calder trophy this last year. I think he's going to be a better overall player, though, in this next season and start to develop more of a two-way game on top of just better offense. I think he'll at least be a point per game, if not more, and I would not be surprised if he's around the 100-point range already. He's just that good. But you also have the progression in other youthful players like Kevin Korchinski and hopefully Lucas Reichel. That's also on top of a ton of free agency additions they made like Teuvo Teravainen, Tyler Bertuzzi, and especially Laurent Brossoit, who I think has been one of the more underrated signings of this whole free agency period. He's somebody that, albeit in a limited role, has been brilliant as a goaltender over the past few seasons. I think he could have a bigger role for Chicago and could do pretty well in that too. And you also have, of course, players like Taylor Hall, who I think will be fully healthy next year. And I think Chicago will turn the page pretty rapidly. I don't think they'll be a playoff team, and I don't think they'll be particularly close to a playoff spot, but I could see 10, 15 points behind a playoffs when it's all said and done, just because of the progression naturally throughout their roster. And man, I just look at this forward group, and I really don't think it's that bad whatsoever. The center position is a little bit of a weakness, but I think Jason Dickinson is pretty underrated at this point. He had a great season last year, but the wing depth is especially strong on top of course, having Connor Bedard. I also think the defense with progression of course, players like Korchinski and Vlasic and the additions of Alex Martinez and TJ Brody could be pretty interesting there. And I think for Chicago, they're not going to be good. I'm not arguing that they're going to be good, but I think they'll be decent. I think they'll be okay. And this next year, I think they're going to take a huge step. Now, speaking of more teams that I think are going to overperform where people have them, this one I've been kind of cultivating for a while, and it was also something I mentioned in the ranking video, but this is another Western Conference team that I think is going to surprise a ton of people. And that's my third bold prediction. I think that the Utah Hockey Club will not just almost make the playoffs, but come top 3 in the Central Division. We already know that their forward group is going to be sick because in Arizona, it was pretty fantastic, but you got players like Keller, Cooley, Gunther, Schmaltz, Krause. I think especially it's going to be led by Clayton Keller, who I think is going to have by far his best season. I would not be surprised if he's around 100, maybe even 110 points when it's all said and done. I think this is going to be the best year coming up of his career. But the forward group was never the problem for Arizona. It was pretty much everything outside of that, especially the defense. And Utah went out and made some major additions there, getting Mikhail Sergachev, John Marino, two guys who I think will make a massive difference. And Ian Cole, too, who, although he didn't have the greatest playoffs with Vancouver, was pretty pivotal on their bottom pair throughout the regular season. And I think defensively will be good there, too. They made the moves that they needed to make. And I know I'm pretty confident, more confident than most in their goaltending tandem of Connor Ingram and Karel Velimelka, but I think Ingram especially was easily one of the most underrated players last year. In Ingram's case, he's a goaltender that's had a .907 save percentage in back-to-back years of Arizona, but this last year played 50 NHL games, getting a massive role and played very well. He was 13th in terms of goals saved of expected in all NHL goalies. He was a brilliant goaltender last year, and I think if he carries it over onto this next season with the improvements on the defense, I think Ingram and Utah could be a very good spoiler here. I could absolutely see them in their first year being a strong team and potentially a playoff team too. In saying that, I could still absolutely see Utah not performing up to that level, mainly if the center situation kind of fumbles a little bit, if that defense and specifically Mikhail Sergachev isn't able to stay healthy, and if goalies like Connor Ingram end up coming back down to earth. But I feel like with how they were trending last year and the additions they made, they needed to make, to me, I think Utah's in a strong position to really succeed, and I have good belief in this group getting it done. Now we keep going to the bold predictions, and for number 4, this is actually one involving the Calder Trophy, and this Calder Trophy race is going to be bananas. There are so many different top-end guys that could end up making their mark, but I think this Calder Trophy race is also wide open for a potential spoiler, and I think the most likely candidates are Macklin Celebrini, Matvei Michkov. In terms of likelihood of winning the trophy, it's probably going to be between those two, but one player that I could see absolutely spoiling the race here is actually Dustin Wolf of the Calgary Flames. With all the hype coming in with Michkov and Celebrini, it would kind of be nuts to see a goaltender come in and steal the Calder away from them, but I could absolutely see that happening. At 23 years old, I think Wolf is primed to finally break out in the NHL, and he's somebody that this last year was having some growing pains, getting some more NHL reps, but I think it was necessary for him to have a strong season this next year. And Calgary also boosted his Calder chances by trading Jacob Markstrom. If they just traded Vladar, then I don't think Wolf would have had much of a chance, since Markstrom, I still think, would have at least been a tandem goalie with Wolf, if not playing more games. But I think under the current situation in Calgary, Wolf is very likely to be the starter full-time next year, which I think gives him the best chance out of any goalie of winning the Calder. Maybe you could see Devon Levi as well in the race, and I could absolutely see him being up there too. But I think Wolf, considering how many games he's played, how consistent he can be, I think he's primed for a great year coming up. The only thing that I think could hold back Dustin Wolf's chances is just the Calgary Flames in general. Even though they've given him the opportunity and the chance to be the starter there, the rest of the team isn't very great. Defensively, they have a lot of newcomers, a lot of younger players like Miramana, Ball, Bean, Pakal as well. Anderson's still pretty young too. And I think that could maybe hold back Wolf's statistics and raw numbers there. I think in terms of play, he could still be fantastic, but he might be more so of a 905, 910 save percentage, which is what Jacob Markstrom was, considering Calgary's defense there. He was also a goaltender that kind of had his stats hampered a little bit by Calgary's structure, and that could happen to Wolf as well. But I think in terms of players itching and right there on the cusp of making their mark, Dustin Wolf is right there, man. And I think this next year could be a massive season for him. If it isn't, if he's around a 905 save percentage, that's fine. I just hope he gets the time and the experience to become an NHL goalie, which we all know he can be when he's at his best. But we continue on here with my 5th bold prediction today, and this is one actually involving the Ottawa Senators. Not as a team, just as one player here. And I'm still on the fence of them actually being a playoff team when it's all said and done, but for my 5th bold prediction, I think Tim Stutzle is going to be top 8 in scoring this next year. Not goals, just in terms of pure points. I think Tim Stutzle is going to have a massive season, and this might sway whether the Senators get in the playoffs or not. I still think there are holes outside of Stutzle and the top end guys there, depth-wise and defensively, that could hold them back, but I think Stutzle is going to have a massive year here, folks. These last couple years have been pretty interesting for Stutzle. You see back in 2023, he got 90 points, almost got 40 goals, was on on pace to get 40 goals, just had an incredible breakout campaign. But last year, we saw him be a little bit more invisible, a bit less consistent. He had his moments, that's for sure, but he ended up with 70 points, 18 goals in 75 games. I think we'll see the goal scoring back and the overall game improving again, and I think this next year will be his best overall season. Not only do I think it'll be Tim Stutzle's first 100-point season, but I could absolutely see him being around maybe the 110-point range. I think we're also going to see improvements in players like Brady Tkachuk and just that power play in general, as hopefully Norris is healthy, Shane Pinto is there for the full season, and we start to see that top six be a lot more solidified. I think Tim Stutzle is going to benefit from that a ton, but be the leader offensively throughout that whole year. And hey, if he got 110 points this last year, that would have tied him for 5th place overall, so he could be somebody that maybe even sneaks into the top 5 when it's all said and done, but I think most likely he fits more around the JT Miller, Mikko Rantanen range, around 100, 105 points. To me, I think he's going to have a great year here coming up, though, and build upon that breakout season in 2023. He's somebody that we know the talent there, we know the offensive potential that he can have. This last year was a little bit of a blip, but I think we'll see him get back to that unreal elite level in 2025. As you guys know, Ottawa was a team I saw making the playoffs last year. That did not end up happening, but I'm really hoping that Stutzle has a big year, that a lot of those top-end guys have big years, because I want to see Ottawa make the playoffs. I want to see them finally be a successful team, and hopefully Stutzle is a big part of that. Now on to the 6th and penultimate bold prediction for today's video. This is one that's actually involving somebody that was traded this last offseason, who I think is going to have a massive year this next season for the New Jersey Devils. For my 6th bold prediction, I think that Jacob Markstrom, hear me out, is going to win the Vezina trophy. You guys know I've talked about Jacob Markstrom a lot over the last year as a really underrated goaltender. He's someone that I've had a great season this last year for Calgary and really propelled them higher than they should have gone, really. But I think Jacob Markstrom is in a prime position to be on a contender again and to really showcase and prove himself once more. To me, even though there is some age concerns there, turning 35 in January, I don't really have too much of a concern, at least for this next year, that he'll be able to perform at a great level. And New Jersey, with how much they've tried to really rebuild that defensive side of the team with some of the additions they made on the bottom 6 and on the defense in general, I think they will be improved there, and I think it really will show in Markstrom's stats too. Even if he has the same exact type of play he did last year, I could see him around a 915, 920 save percentage in this next year, and I think considering New Jersey bouncing back too, I think they're going to be in contention for a lot of different awards here. I think Jack Hughes is going to have a great season this next year. I think New Jersey is going to be bouncing back in a major way. I think Markstrom will be a big part of that, though, and be one of the best goaltenders, if not the best, next season. I kind of predict him to have the similar season as Marc-Andre Fleury did in his first year of the Vegas Golden Knights. He got 927 save percentage, was absolutely brilliant there. I see Markstrom playing more games than Fleury did, but I also think, considering how good of a backup Jake Allen is, that Allen will be able to relieve some of the pressure off of Markstrom as well, which I think will make Markstrom in the games he does play even better. Even if I'm wrong on this, though, and it's like an Igor Shesterkin who ends up winning the Vezina trophy, I'm not going to be too mad about this, because I think Markstrom, just in general, will have a great season with New Jersey. Whether he wins the Vezina trophy or not, I think he'll be the answer for their goaltending tandem. Him and of course now Jake Allen, I think, are finally going to make New Jersey's goaltending a strength, which it hasn't been for a very long time. It just feels right when New Jersey has amazing goaltending, and I think Jacob Markstrom, Jake Allen, those two guys are going to be dealing against the rest of the league. But now we go on to the boldest, the hottest take for today's video for the 2025 NHL season, and this is also one that I've been percolating a little bit. We mentioned it a little bit as a possibility in the team ranking video, but at number 7, I could absolutely see a scenario where the Colorado Avalanche end up missing the playoffs this next year. Granted, I could absolutely see a situation where they end up proving that theory wrong, but just look at the depth they have. I'm not very confident in Gabriel Landeskog coming in and saving their franchise, and I also think Valeri Nichushkin is just in a weird situation. I don't know if they even want to play him, if they want to trade him immediately after he's out of the NHLPA assistance program. There's just a lot of question marks with this Avalanche team. Are you going to have Nikolai Kovalenko on your second line, guys like Parker Kelly on your team? And even though the defense I still think is rock solid and I think will be a strength for them, I just then look at the goaltending, and I like Justus Annunen, but I'm just not a big fan of Alexander Georgiev. He had a brutal season last year, and I just don't think he's in a position to really get back to the level he was at in 2023. I just have a lot of question marks with this Avs team, with the depth, with a lot of the players they have coming up. Of course, you could have Mikko Rantanen, McKinnon, and Makar still dealing and still get them there, but I think they're going to have serious depth issues, and the cap space is just a serious issue for them too. They were wanting to trade Ross Colton. They couldn't make that happen, and I just think the depth could end up biting them in the butt, especially in that really competitive Western Conference. Wins aren't going to come easy, and it might be stupid to say, but I feel like teams like St. Louis, like LA, they're going to be in there for those wild card spots, and they're going to be competitive. They're going to be feisty. They're going to be grinding it down, and I think in Colorado's case, you have the top end players there. They're still brilliant, but I just think the depth has been continually getting worse and worse every single season, and this year we could start to see it really bite them in the regular season instead of the playoffs. Realistically, I still see Colorado making it, which is why I had them as a playoff team in my ranking video, but it's really going to be a big test for the coaching, specifically in Jared Bednar, who really doesn't have a lot of options to work with right now. At least besides the defense, there's pretty thin margins here throughout the roster, and again, I think this is going to be a real make or break season for the rest of the players besides the core. But those are some of my bold predictions for the 2025 season, and all of these could go wrong. I wanted to go as interesting as I possibly could, though, for next year, so hopefully you guys did enjoy. And if you had any bold predictions of your own, please let me know in the comments down below what your hottest take is for next season. Players that'll do well, do badly, teams that'll do bad, teams that'll do well. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, make sure that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online, and click on this card for all my predictions in one playlist. You can see all the bad predictions, all the good predictions there throughout the years, and I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.